Today on Philly Take with RB, we discuss a potential veteran free agent signing for the Sixers late here in free agency. Also, second-round pick Charles Bassey may finally be making his way to Philadelphia after a very tedious process with his agent. And lastly, a familiar camp body returns to Philadelphia. Let's talk about it. Perfect. What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome on into Philly Take with RB, where we constantly talk Philadelphia sports. You know what to do. If you enjoy the content here on the channel, be sure to drop a like on the video, man. It really helps me push out the content. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the notification bell so you get all the notifications. And you know how we have to start this, man. Drop the yes, sir in the chat. Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much for constantly supporting the vision and the movement. We continue to grow, and shout out to the Fire Take Nation. But let's get into it today. We have some Sixers news, and we will start with the big piece of the day, and that comes from this fella right here. If you probably notice this guy, most of you will probably recognize him. That is Paul Millsap, 36-year-old forward for the Denver Nuggets, now is currently a free agent. And, you know, we're getting late into this free agent process, and he is still on the board. Most of you probably recognize him from his time with the Utah Jazz. A lot of people remember him probably from his prime with the Atlanta Hawks, where he became a four-time All-Star. And as of late, he had received a big contract from the Denver Nuggets, but really never lived up to it. And as a 36-year-old player, has pretty much just, you know, transformed into a role player now in the NBA. But he's still out there, and he's probably going to try to end up joining a contender. And here's a quote that we have from Jake Fischer of Bleacher Report, who we have referenced multiple times this offseason. He says, quote, "Golden State has been the team most often linked by league sources to Paul Millsap, arguably the most consequential free agent left. Yet, while the 36-year-old former All-Star has drawn interest from the Warriors, Hawks, Nets, Pelicans, Sixers, and Timberwolves, no team sources contacted by Bleacher Report indicated any contract agreement with Millsap has come close to the finish line." And I think it's a common trend that we are seeing nowadays, you know, especially now where the game is at. A lot of these older role player type of pieces are still on the board. They're still there, and they're probably going to have to end up taking less money to sign, maybe with a contender, maybe make that final push of their career. There's guys like JJ Redick who are still out there that people have, you know, personally DM'd me about. Should we go get JJ Redick? And my answer is, well, obviously we need more shooting, but how much is he going to be worth? Does he still have it what it takes to play in this league? Is he still quick enough? Is he still going to be effective enough? And is he worth a roster spot? And I think that's kind of where people are looking in terms of guys like Paul Millsap as well. Now, I do think Paul Millsap is going to end up making more than the vet's minimum contract. I do think he's going to have to bite into somebody's taxpayer mid-level or something like that. But you saw all the teams that were listed there, and the Sixers were obviously one on that team. And apparently, Daryl Morey has had his eyes on Paul Millsap as potentially a backup 4 or 5 for this team. Now, obviously, your first thoughts are, well, we signed Andre Drummond. Well, we signed George Niang. What about that? And I absolutely agree. And that's why I'm here to tell you I don't think it will happen in terms of Paul Millsap coming to the Sixers. I think Paul Millsap at this point in his career, for a player that has shot above 34% from 3 over the last 4 years of his career, I think he would be a good depth piece for the Sixers, but I don't think he would get the amount of minutes that he probably wants. I don't think we have the cap to sign him to what he wants. And I just think Paul Millsap will probably land with another contender somewhere, and he'll just be a decent role player. Obviously, he can still shoot it from deep. In addition to that, he's always been a pretty good defensive player. He'll give you, a block and a half a night. He'll provide some steals for your team. He'll rack it up on the defensive side of the ball, but he's getting slow over time, and at 36 years old, I really don't want anything to do with it. I don't think this is the right fit. If the Sixers were to even try to acquire Paul Millsap, it would probably have to be via some sign and trade or something like that. So I just don't really see it being a realistic possibility. I honestly think how our roster is shaping out now is probably close to the finished product you were going to see, barring any trades, and obviously we have to wait and see what happens with that. But in terms of the free agent market, we don't have that much flexibility. And I really don't know why the Sixers are rumored as a team on this list, because it'll be a really hard situation to make really play into itself here. So I just don't really see it being a realistic possibility at this point. But anyway, moving on to the next part, Charles Bassey, our second round pick, 53rd overall. If you haven't, heard about this lately, there's been a whole contract dispute about Charles Bassey and his agent, and this is the reason why he didn't play in Summer League and all this stuff. And here was a quote from Paul Hudrick from about a week ago, and this is what he had said about Charles Bassey. After a long, tedious process, he said, a team source confirms Charles Bassey will be on the Sixers roster and not on a two-way deal. Aaron Henry occupies one two-way spot. Grant Ryler will occupy the other since he's officially signed, which the team intends to do at the end of the month. Pretty much meaning that those players, Henry and Ryler, will probably end up going to the Bluecoats. And it would honestly surprise me if Charles Bassey is on a regular deal, because you look at the depth we have. We went out and signed Andre Drummond. At that point, it's almost like, do we really need Charles Bassey on this roster? Maybe he'll be one of the end of the rotation guys who might play a few minutes here and there. We know the kid has a horse, right? He's a great rebounder. He's a great defender. He's working on his jump shot. Who knows? He could be a diamond in the rough, but he is still a prospect. It's pretty hard to hit on two Paul Reed type of players in a row, right, late in the draft. Obviously, our other second-round pick, Filip Petrusev, is signed, but he's probably going to end up going overseas to play for a year or two. Who knows about that? So at this point, it finally seems like Charles Bassey is going to end up finally coming to the 76ers, but a lot of people were saying that potential interest in Paul Millsap could be the thing that was holding up the Sixers from getting this deal done. I'm not really sure how that will correlate, but we'll see, man. Hopefully Charles Bassey finally makes his way over here so he can get some practice and some reps with the guys, because Summer League was great for our other young players, and he did not get a chance to play it, and I really don't like that at all. I really do not like that at all. And the last thing I'll say about it is that apparently the whole holdup, and this isn't confirmed or anything, but it seems it's over whether the contract will be partially or non-guaranteed. Because obviously Charles Bassey is going to want a fully guaranteed contract, but if the Sixers keep it as partially guaranteed or non-guaranteed, then it will make them more flexible in potential trade scenarios in terms of moving that type of deal and that contract and that player. So there's probably just little, ramifications that they have to make surrounding the contract, but I'm sure they will get it worked out at some point. And the last thing we will discuss here today is this man right here. Does anybody recognize this man? Let me know down below in the comment section. I bet 99% of you did not know without looking it up. That is Haywood Highsmith. Haywood Highsmith, 24-year-old former Philadelphia 76er, is making his way back to the squad. Haywood Highsmith, a pretty good defender, has some length. He's still a very young, raw prospect, former undrafted. He's just a young prospect, man, and he's obviously still has to work on his offensive side of the game. He's just a defensive prospect, really, where it's at. But Haywood Highsmith will sign an Exhibit 10 deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, and what this means essentially is that, he's going to come to camp. He'll be a camp body, but most likely he will exercise his option to go play with the Delaware Bluecoats after it's all said and done. He actually has played with them in 2019. Last year, he went overseas to Germany and got some work in there. Back in 2018, he was also with the Bluecoats, and he ended up getting called up, played 5 games with the Philadelphia 76ers, his only NBA action, and we never really saw him again. But just a young prospect. We'll see what he's able to do. In 89 games total that he's played with the Bluecoats, he has averaged 11.3 points a game, 6.8 rebounds, 2.6 assists, and 1.2 steals in under 30 minutes a game. So we'll see what happens. And bringing in Haywood Highsmith and then bringing in Charles Bassey, it seems like the Sixers are going to waive Anthony Tolliver. I don't even know why we brought Anthony Tolliver in at this point, but who knows? That seems like the consensus here. And, we're going to rock and see what happens to our roster as we move forward. But another former camp body returns to Philadelphia. I want to hear from you. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments section. What do you make of a potential signing? What do you think the final roster will look like? Give me all your thoughts down below. And as always, I appreciate you guys so much for coming in. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect.